The college basketball season is less than 1 week away, and the season starts with a bang. There are 126 games scheduled for Monday, November 7th, with Baylor and Mississippi Valley State tipping off at noon Eastern Time. We have 2 ways to help you get this season underway. Number one, as we did for the start of the NHL season and as well as the beginning of the NBA season, all 7-day college basketball packages will be only $49 through Sunday, November 13th at midnight. Number two, head to Ralph Michaels' homepage at WagerTalk.com and get the free 100-page college basketball preview. The shortcut to Ralph's page is wt.buzz/rm. This 100-page guide has returning starters, percentage of returning minutes, last season's overall stats, as well as conference-only statistics, plus against the spread and over-under data. It also includes coaching data, conference previews, and a forecast for each conference. Whether it's a 7-day college basketball package, checking the WagerTalk odds page for updated numbers, or downloading the free college basketball guide, enjoy this season. And March Madness will be here before we know it.
Happy Friday, everyone. Thanks for joining us on Prop It Up. I am Andy Lang from WagerTalk.com. Friday starts the weekend, and we are here to make your weekend a profitable one through the props betting market. Joining me this morning, Matt Josephs from SportsMemo.com. Andrew is having an incredible vacation over in Ireland. If you follow him on social media, you see all his pictures and everything. So hope he's having a really good time over there. I absolutely love Ireland. I have a lot of friends over there, so I know he's having a really good time. Matt, odd game last night, Thursday night football. We had a pretty good World Series game, unless you're a Phillies fan. Let's start with the NFL. I don't know, the Philadelphia Eagles, not a great game by them, but they really didn't have to do much when you're facing the the Houston Texans. So any takeaways from the props in that game?
So the first thing I said when we did our show in week one and we kind of talked about things for the season, I said, I have to start taking the obvious plays. And last night was the obvious plays. It was Pierce over. It was Sanders over. 2 bad rushing defenses on a Thursday night. And the Texans didn't care if they were down 1 million, which they never were, but like they were going to hand the ball off to Pierce. And it was so obvious. And I like it better when my team is kind of one of many games because I could kind of treat it like that. Like, oh, okay, here's my stuff. I'm going to look at it and then move on to something else. Well, last night it was the game, so I spent extra time and I outthought myself when it comes to that stuff. The other thing that annoyed me yesterday was look, I've talked about on the show, a staple bet for me, and it will continue to be, is the under for the longest completion for the opponent versus the Eagles. Entering the game last night, only 2 passes of over 30 yards have happened against the Eagles. And, of course, the first drive, Philip Dorsett gets a 34-yard reception, which actually was a 33-yard reception. I'm sending the NFL the tape now because it was 33.5 was the number. But it was a frustrating game last night, Andy, because the easy props were there, and I just couldn't take them.
I sat there and I was like, in the first quarter, I was like, why is Dameon Pierce not on my card? Like, that's all they had. They rolled out Brandon Cooks and Collins, and you're just sitting there and you're like, I can't believe I did that. So, yeah, 1-1 for me. I had the first half over, which should have gotten there. We had a fumble. I believe the announcers made it a point to talk about how it was the first fumble from Hurts this year, and then we have a missed field goal at the end, so we missed that by the hook. I did take advantage of Sanders. I had him to score a touchdown, so that was a pretty good play. But yeah, that was a tough one. We did talk about on this is looking forward on the Houston Texans. We talked about this with Ariel. So the Houston Texans teams are not throwing touchdowns on them. They're just running the ball in. And when I was talking with Ariel, I was like, Kenneth Gainwell at plus 310 is kind of an interesting touchdown prop. And sure enough, he cashes. I think you might have some real value looking at these touchdown props on the running backs that are playing Houston, especially if you think the game is going to get a little bit out of range. Houston did a good job keeping it close last night, but you look at their schedule, and if you've got teams that feature 1 and 2 running backs, you might take both of them to score a touchdown. And if you hit both of them, you're having a great day. And if you hit the longer shot, like we would have with Kenneth Gainwell, you're having a good one. But A.J. Brown gets the touchdown, but two touchdowns for running backs against the Houston Texans. So I think that might be something we can look at going forward. And please let me know how your email goes to the NFL so they can review your Davis Mills longest completion bet. Let me know if that actually works. So
by the way, I actually felt vindicated on not taking the Sanders stuff because the first drive, Gainwell gets in and Boston Scott gets in. I'm like, oh, they're just going to rotate guys. Sanders is going to have a good effort, but he's going to go under. And then, of course, they eventually realized, hey, Miles Sanders is our number one. By the way, I'm actually kicking myself also, Andy, because I usually like, I like to look at those guys who are below, and I'm guessing Gainwell went over his number for rushing yards too. I wish I would have waited. It didn't come out. There was a lot of things that didn't come out until the day of, and I missed it. But, yeah, it was just a frustrating game because it's your own team, and you spend extra time looking at it because it's the only standalone game. And to not take the obvious stuff, and to not take, like, Jake Elliott extra points, too. Like, that should have been on my card as well.
yeah, that was a good one. Yeah, we're crying over spilled money on this one. So we're gonna break down a few NFL games, and then Matt and I are gonna take turns going over a couple of special NFL props, and we're gonna go over NBA. We're gonna squeeze in some baseball, college football, and some UFC props to get you ready for the weekend. Let's turn our attention to the NFL. And let's break down a couple of games. Matt, you can go first. We're going to talk about the Commanders and the Vikings. Maybe some light at the end of the tunnel for the Commanders. Now Dan Snyder's announced he's looking to sell the team. You almost kind of see a little bit of positivity coming out of the Commanders. But for this game, what do you like from the props betting standpoint? Commanders and Vikings.
Well, I mean, look, the Commander side of things, it's gotten frustrating with regards to Taylor Heineke because I took the over and he didn't go over. And then I came on the show last week. I'm like, oh, maybe Taylor Heineke's not running anymore. And then, of course, he goes over and he runs like 6 times last week. So I don't know what to do with him anymore. But the one thing I do know with Taylor Heineke is he throws to Terry McLaurin. I mean, it's a very simple thing, and Carson Wentz never figured it out. I mean, you feed your number one wide receiver even when he's not open. Let him make catches. Let him pay. Take care of the money that he's getting paid for. And Taylor Heineke's doing it. So once again, I'm kind of looking at Terry McLaurin here. The Vikings secondary is exploitable. McLaurin's number has gone up. I mean, you kind of missed the boat on getting McLaurin in the 50s. I think it was 59.5 last week. He went over. It's 67.5 now. I still think he's going to go over there. I also think this is going to be a heavy Kirk Cousins week. I think that Kirk Cousins is going to get at least the over 1.5 passing touchdowns. I think is gold right there. The Commanders actually improved their secondary by getting rid of William Jackson, who couldn't play in their system. But like the Washington's run defense is pretty good this year, and so I think that you're going to see a lot more Kirk Cousins. It's a revenge game, although it's really not a revenge game because Kirk Cousins stole money from the Commanders / football team / Redskins twice by taking 2 franchise tags. So I feel like this is going to be a pretty somewhat predictable game. I'm not necessarily taking the under on Dalvin Cook, but I'm not going over. I think this is a Terry McLaurin touchdown game. I think Kirk Cousins finds Justin Jefferson. You might want to even look at Kirk Cousins' longest reception and longest completion prop because if you get one of those Commanders breakdowns in the secondary, one of those guys, either Thielen or Jefferson's going to break a long one. So to me, unless weather gets involved, and that's always something you want to look at on game day, this one feels like it's going to be a lot of passing on both sides because there are some things that they could take advantage of. The Antonio Gibson prop isn't out yet. The last 2 weeks, it's been my favorite receiving prop because he's kind of their receiving back now. They've kind of pushed J.D. McKissick out. I'll be interested to see if I get another number in the 18-20 area. I don't think so because, well, he went over that by a lot last week. But look at Antonio Gibson receiving yards as well because that's what they wanted him to do originally when Brian Robinson was installed as the number one, and now they're actually carrying out that plan.
He looks good. Antonio Gibson, I think he looks fantastic in that role. I mean, he looks very natural in that fit. So I'm with you 100% on that. Good stuff from Matt Josephs at sportsmemo.com breaking down the Vikings and the Commanders. I'm going to take a look at the Raiders and Jaguars here. First name that jumps off the page here is Devontae Adams, receiving total 75.5. I mean, he was really sick last week, and I didn't even come close to getting anywhere near an over there. He's been upgraded to a full participant in practice, so I'm sure he's feeling a little bit better, but they've got his number at 75.5. I don't know. Jacksonville isn't awful against wide receivers. I would not be on the over on Devontae Adams this week. Maybe he's fully healthy and comes back, but based on the reports of saying how sick he actually was, I would stay away from Devontae Adams. If he's fully healthy, he's gone over more times than he hasn't. So, but for this week, I would tread a little bit lightly on that. Christian Kirk, he was great at the beginning of the year, but they're just not throwing the ball a lot to him. I don't know if defenses are keying in on him, but he's gone under his receiving total in 3 out of 4 games, and the Raiders do a pretty good job against slot receivers where he's been lining up quite a bit. So if you're playing Christian Kirk, it's probably an under. And then I'm looking hard at Derek Carr under his passing totals. I saw an interview where they were talking with the Raiders head coach, and the Raiders talked about using Josh Jacobs more. And this was a few weeks ago, and said we need to just get back to the basics, which is running with Josh Jacobs. Well, they've been doing that, and they've been throwing a lot less. And Carr's completion total is 22.5. He's gone under that in 4 straight games. And his passing total is 250.5. He's gone under that in 4 straight games. So we got a very honest answer from the Raiders coaching staff about what they wanted to do a few weeks ago. And we've seen Jacobs thrive, and we've seen Derek Carr's numbers go down. So if you're looking at Derek Carr, I think you're looking at under his completions and under his passing. But Matt, you mentioned maybe a longest reception in the Vikings game. I'm going to be all over Travis Etienne, over 17.5 longest rush. He has a rush of 30 yards or more in 4 straight games. He is as explosive as anybody in the NFL from the running back position when it comes to big plays. Raiders are okay against the run, but with a guy like Etienne, he just needs to get open in the flat once, and you can cash this one. So anytime you have a guy that has a rush of 30 yards or more in 4 straight games, you have my attention. So Travis Etienne over 17.5 longest rush is going to be my favorite play in this one. I would expect this game to be fairly close. I would expect Etienne to be involved all game long. So let's take advantage of that one. Ravens and Saints. Matt, second game you're going to break down. We've got a Mark Andrews injury issue here. We've got Bateman, who unfortunately for the Ravens is out for the year. So what are you looking at from this Ravens and Saints game? It looks like Andy Dalton is going to continue to be the starting quarterback for the Saints. Poor Jameis. So what are you looking at props-wise in this game?
Yeah, and by the way, the Trevor Lawrence under on his longest completion has been a good one, although I don't think I'm going to take it against the Raiders. Their secondary is just brutal for the most part. So I just looked on the website. I just looked on DraftKings. None of the props are up for this. But, I mean, the main reason why I brought this up is this is a field goal game. I mean, this is a Justin Tucker game. This is a Will Lutz game. This is a game I'm probably going to look at the longest field goal kicked over. If it's probably going to be 46.5 yards or so. I mean, I can look as we're talking here to see because it's usually 46.5 or 47.5. Sometimes it's 47.5 in Denver. But to me, you've got it's 47.5. But I still, you got 2 kickers with great legs inside a dome stadium. So to me, the reason why I picked this, Andy, is lots of field goals, I think, in this game. Justin Tucker is going to be an auto bet for me every time. And, of course, as I say that means they're going to probably set it like minus 160 this week over 1.5 field goals. But, I mean, this is a Ravens offense that, they just can't get things going. And if Andrews is out, I did like what Likely did, the Coastal Carolina kid last week for Baltimore. And we know that Lamar Jackson kind of likes his tight ends a lot. So I feel like if Andrews is out, Likely is going to be a good option. I know the Saints have been good against tight ends, but who else is Jackson going to throw to? So to me, Andy, the reason why I picked this game is because I think there's going to be lots of field goals. And I think Lamar Jackson's going to run a bit. I think that Taysom Hill's going to run a bit. We already know that Michael Thomas is out for this game. He went on IR. He's done for the season. But I think this is going to be one of those pretty simple games. Taysom Hill, Lamar Jackson, field goal kicking, and Likely, too. I think Likely is going to have a good game, although the books will probably know that, too. What do you think they'll set it at, Andy? If he starts, do you think 4.5 receptions, 5.5 receptions? Because he got fed quite a bit last week.
Wow, I would think 3.5 is the number. It's fairly. He's not a known name. I mean, you and I know who he is, and I would guess fantasy football players know. Well, me, I definitely know who he is because I have Mark Andrews in one of my leagues, so I definitely know who he is. I would say the average fan doesn't know who he is. I would guess 3.5, maybe with a touch of juice, despite his production from last week. If you could get 3.5, that would be an amazing play. Um, Also, to piggyback off of what you were talking about, Andy Dalton loves throwing to Alvin Kamara. You look at Alvin Kamara's receiving totals; they've gone up since they've moved to Andy Dalton completely. So I'm glad you picked this game because I've been waiting for the Alvin Kamara receptions prop to come out. But yeah, I'm with you 100%. Justin Tucker, I mean, he's the gift that keeps on giving, isn't he? I mean, that's got to be your favorite kicking prop this year, right?
Yeah, I mean, and it's been for a while. And whether it's the longest field goal or whether it's the number of field goals, their offense is tailor-made for it. Now, the only thing that kind of, it should have been, I think it's been like 4 or 5 games in a row, and it should have been longer, but Harbaugh decided to go against kicking a field goal that would have made it an extra one, but he went for it on like 4th and 3. That's the only thing I'm worried about is that he listens to Lamar Jackson and lets him go for it on 4th down quite a bit. But yeah, Justin Tucker has extended range and is very, I mean, he doesn't even, when he kicks the ball, it's like right down the middle. Like it's not even like even slightly to the left or slightly to the right. It's literally right down the middle.
He's the best. He's one of the best kickers of all time for a reason. So, all right, I'm going to take a look at the Seahawks and the Cardinals, and of course, this is the tight end special because these are the 2 worst teams in the league by far against tight end. So you're looking at Noah Fant over 27.5 receiving. He had 6 catches for 45 yards last game against Arizona. And then I'm looking here at Zach Ertz numbers and Zach Ertz props. So Zach Ertz is around that 38.5 range. Now, when you look at Ertz and you go through his game log, you'll notice the last 2 weeks he has gone under. He's faced New Orleans and he's faced Minnesota. New Orleans in particular is very good against defending tight ends. Minnesota is middle of the road. So I wouldn't be too worried about looking at Zach Ertz and saying, well, he didn't get over the last 2 weeks. This is all matchup based, and you're just going to take the tight ends against Seattle and against Arizona. So Noah Fant is in play on the over. Zach Ertz is in play on the over. Matt, DeAndre Hopkins' reception total is 6.5. It's at minus 135. But I'm not taking the under. He has 22 catches in 2 games this season. I mean, talk about getting fed the ball. I don't really know what you do with DeAndre Hopkins here. Seattle's defense has gotten better as the year goes on. I'm not taking a DeAndre Hopkins under, but man, to get 7 catches at minus 135 is a lot. You could look at the number on his receiving. I believe it's 82.5. It's in the 80s. I'm going to go to Kyler Murray over 34.5 rushing is the one that caught my eye on this one. Division game. Geno Smith is getting all the love right now. Geno Smith, oh, what a story. Potential MVP. So this would not surprise me in the slightest if Kyler Murray tries to put on a show and runs for a lot of yards. 34.5 yards is not a lot, especially if this game is close. And you see Kyler run a lot kind of at the end of the half, at the end of the game, when they're in scramble mode. So I will probably be taking a Kyler Murray over rushing prop. I don't really know what the status is right now of the Arizona running backs. If it's some kind of weird committee, then you could look at unders because the Seattle rushing defense was pretty decent last week, and they've gotten better over the course of the season. But for the most part, it's probably going to be stay away for that. So that's why I'll take Kyler Murray over his rushing, and then you're looking at the tight ends from the Seahawks and the Cardinals. All right, guys, let us move on to first half and second half totals. I got burned by the hook last night, Matt. I was 2-0 on Monday Night Football. I could have been 2-0 last night, but the first half total got me. But talk to us about first half and second half totals and some of the teams that you look at for these props.
Yeah, it's I actually forgot about it for a couple weeks. And then the funny thing was I noticed I was looking at the Eagles Steelers props 2 weeks ago, and I noticed the Eagles first half was 13.5, and I was like, that's crazy. And I know you had it too 2 weeks ago. But I mean, it's one of the things that I love about DraftKings. I don't necessarily know how many other books have it. But there's certainly, and the funny thing is, Andy, I looked at the same thing you did last night about the 14.5, and that extra point just scared me. And it's weird how that works, because obviously 13.5 and 14.5 is two different things. You need 2 touchdowns to go over 13.5. You need 2 touchdowns and a 2-point conversion or a field goal to go over the other one. But it's just anytime I can get a competent offense with 13.5, and there's the Bills, the Chiefs, the Eagles. You're not going to often get it with those offenses, but it's just something else that you kind of need to look at. I had a list actually written down for some of the teams, but you're also kind of looking at the same teams to fade. I mean, it was the Jets. You're looking at some of these other defenses that are not very good, and it kind of carries over to college football, because there were some college football teams who are horrendous in the first half, and you look at the first quarter numbers, the first half numbers. Likewise, in the NFL, there are just some defenses that are absolutely atrocious, and every once in a while, the book hangs you a 13.5, which is, with some of these offenses, that's 1 quarter. You might get 14 points. So it's just something kind of else to take a look at. You want to fade the bad defenses in this league. You know who the bad defenses are. The Texans usually, some of the other teams that are just horrendous, and you could find a 13.5 and take advantage of it. Likewise, you could find some offenses who are slow starters. I mean, obviously, everybody knows about how good the Eagles are in the second quarter. Find a trend like that. Before last night, I think they had only scored like 50 points in the second half. So certainly finding trends and taking advantage of those situations are something that you can do, because once again, as I always say, there are a lot of markets out there that the books put out there, but I don't think they put a lot of effort on. So find that team at 13.5 that you think are going to score 2 touchdowns in the first half and take advantage of it. And I know you've done so already this year, Andy.
Yeah, we had the Browns. The Browns tried to give me a heart attack on their first total over on Monday. They got Amari Cooper throwing interceptions. It's just, what are you guys doing? Yeah, I was looking at this before you even brought it up. I mean, you got the Dolphins playing the Bears. The Dolphins team total 12.5 over. The Bengals, their defense is so banged up they can't stop running backs. The Panthers' first half total is 7.5. Give me the over. All I need is a touchdown and field goal against that Bengals defense that's struggling. So there are stats out there that you can look at. Teams that are, the Bears give up for this year. The Bears give up the most points in the first half. Atlanta gives up a ton. Miami gives up a ton. Arizona, Pittsburgh. These are all teams that give up over 14 points a game. So the stats are out there. It's a really, really good. It's a really good market to be in. I definitely have a winning percentage on that one. So definitely look at the first half totals for sure. Right. So let's see. What am I going to talk about? Let us talk about NBA props. We're off to a really good start in the NBA. I guess I don't really want to look at in particular like game specific to tonight, but just some overall trends. Unfortunately, your boy Matt James Harden is out for a month. I think this opens the door for some really big Joel Embiid games. I think the first inclination would be, well, you got to go Tyrese Maxey, but I think this just sets up for Embiid to go on a tear. We saw him go on an unbelievably big scoring run in the middle of the season last year. So I would expect as his foot gets healthier from the plantar fasciitis, him to get more in shape and to put up some of those big numbers. We look at some of these teams, and some of the things that I've been doing is looking at matchups. You're taking your power forwards and your centers that are playing against Golden State, Charlotte, and Oklahoma City. Those 3 teams just give up points like it's nothing to the bigs. Golden State is just a mess. They're going to mess with their rotation even more. They already said, and it looks like it's just Steph Curry. Andrew Wiggins has been really good on that team, going over his point total. Klay Thompson is just an absolute stay away from me, because you never know what you're going to get night in, night out. Is he going to shoot 12% from threes, or is he going to shoot 62%. The other guy that has been a real pleasant treat for prop bettors is Donovan Mitchell. He has just fit in seamlessly with that Cleveland Cavaliers team. So you're looking at overs on Donovan Mitchell. Him and Garland are playing really well, and they've got a couple of bigs inside that aren't point happy. They don't mind if Donovan Mitchell is making all the shots and taking all of the shots. And then for my Indiana Pacers, I have to bring it up. You're just taking guards against the Indiana Pacers. We can't stop them. We can't slow them down. I think we want to try and slow them down. It's just we can't slow them down. So take a look at these guards. I mean, you just go down the list of guards that are just torching the Pacers, and you're gonna be doing really well. And the last thing for my Pacers, Tyrese Halliburton. His assists are incredible, and of course, his points have been a really good prop bet. But on DraftKings, you can grab him at a double-double. And the reason I bring this up is sometimes I'll put his assist number at 9.5, but it'll be at like minus 125. Well, if he's going to go over that, that means he's going to get to 10 assists. He's definitely going to get to double digits in points. So you look at the double-double, and the double-double price may be plus 105. You can get yourself 25, 30 cents of value by skipping over the individual assists and points total and just going right to double-double. So when they're pushing these rebound numbers at 9.5 and the assist numbers at 9.5, take a look at double-double and see what the price is. Because if he's going to get over 9.5 assists, he's going to have a double-double. So I would take a look at that in NBA props. But we're off to a great start. Cashed our best bet last night, Matt. So we're at 60% start the NBA season. So pretty happy with that one. All right. You want to do some college football, Matt? You want to talk to us about some things you got with college football coming up?
Yeah, and certainly, yeah, and I'm dabbling in the NBA props too, and just kind of, I'm not.
What are
where
you
you're at.
finding?
I think Maxey is going to do more. I think because I just think this offense is not built for Harden to just do what he does, and then Maxey gets. I think Maxey's going to get more assists maybe, and I think it's going to kind of go back to what he used to now that he's got more improved offense. I don't. The problem is, Andy, I don't know necessarily yet what I'm looking at. I thought that I've looked at kind of like taking some of the bigs against the Lakers. I was disappointed Valanciunas didn't play a lot in that game a couple days ago. So I'm probably making some rookie mistakes here and there, but I'm 7-6 so far. We're still trying to figure some things out, but dabbling here and there and trying to find our specific players. But I mean, the strategy I've been using and is just looking at a lot of the DFS articles and finding the sleepers that they bring up and taking some of the statistics from these articles and kind of translating them into like DraftKings and stuff like that. I've always figured, Andy, and that's why we kind of do this prop show. When you're a DFS player, you're looking at statistics and you're looking to try and put a lineup together. Well, you could take some of those skills and kind of carry them over because a lot of books do go deeper in terms of the players that they put out there. So if you have a guy that you like for a salary of $4,000, why not look on DraftKings or FanDuel or BetMGM, whatever, and try and find out what their numbers are and maybe take advantage of it that way. I don't know how much DFS you do in the NBA, but certainly I find that is a nice little crossover here when playing these props.
Yeah, college football season, kind of winding down here. But still plenty of money to be made in the college football market. So, what are you seeing with college football? There are teams that kind of giving up or teams that are hitting their stride as we come down the stretch. What are you noticing?
Yeah, I think now we're kind of hitting the point where teams are realizing they're not making a bowl game. And there's always there's kind of the thing out there that you fade a team the week after they realize they can't make a bowl game. It all depends on the expectations. If the team didn't think they were going to make a bowl game before the season, like it doesn't really matter if they officially get eliminated. But yeah, now we're at the time, Andy, where people have to start scoring more. The college football playoff rankings came out for the first time. TCU among the teams that were kind of disrespected a little bit. So you're going to see teams like TCU and Alabama and some of these other squads start to run the score up. So look for some of these higher team totals to take over because you're now looking for style points. And also, as I just said, there's teams that are ready to give up. And so you just look for some first half totals with those. You look at some bad teams that are just ready to kind of run the season out a little bit. And so I've been doing a lot more team totals. The other thing real quick is this weekend there's going to be rain and wind in a lot of places. Make sure to take a look at those weather forecasts because we are in the time now where weather becomes an issue. And not so much that the rain is going to be an issue. Wind kind of tampers down some of the passing games a little bit. And there's some teams who are good. Like I'll say this, JMU's playing in Louisville this weekend. It's supposed to be rain and wind in Louisville this weekend. I'm waiting for the points to start coming down a little bit because I want to take the over. JMU's built to play in any sort of wind or rain situation, especially if Todd Centeio plays. Their defense is really banged up. I think Louisville won't mind a wind and rain situation. So I'm waiting for that point total to come down a little bit so I could still take the over because there are some teams who don't throw the ball a lot who will certainly be able to take advantage of a situation like that.
Nice. Yeah, always got to check the weather this time of year. Nothing worse than having it over and then you turn on the game. It's like, oh, it's a monsoon. Wonderful. We got a UFC event. I'll go over a couple props that I like. I talked about this on the show Inside the Distance with Matt Qualis and Kyle Anthony. If you want to check that out, it's on WagerTalk's YouTube channel and the WagerTalk TV app. Make sure you download that. I talked about Ramona Pasquale as a really nice underdog. That's, it's not a prop. This line opened at plus 135. It's already down to plus 110. Apparently the books watch our show and watch me break down that fight. And then they move the line because, let's face it, the breakdown was pretty spot on. There's going to be a lot of fights that go the distance. There's a lot of fights that are going to go the distance. One of them that I think you can jump on that is not going to go the distance is friend of the show, Miranda Maverick. She's facing Shanna Young, and this is a rematch from a few years ago. Miranda Maverick is young already, but a few years ago, she already fought Shanna Young in LFA, and she finished her within the first couple minutes of the first round. She's gotten better, and she's really coming into her own as a professional fighter. Shanna Young is in the twilight of her career. That's only minus 135. So that's a fight that you could absolutely look at. That is not going to go the distance. But then you look at some of these other fights that I think are going to go the distance. They set up for some really nice parlays. You've got Grant Dawson and Mark Madsen. That should be, kind of a wrestling and grappling. There'll be some striking, but nothing too much. And then you've got Tajir Olimbekov against Nate Manis. I think that one could go the distance, and you parlay those two, and you're looking at a really nice plus 140. You've also got the Neil Magny and Daniel Rodriguez fight. Both talented fighters, but not a lot of finishes between them. And Neil Magny's got a really good reach advantage. I'm not sure he knows how to use it. And Daniel Rodriguez has got really good stand-up game, really good defense. So there's some really good fights that you could parlay together that will go the distance. That'll give you a nice plus money. You don't have to do like 3 of them. 2 of them will get you there just fine. So look at Magny and Rodriguez to go the distance, Dawson and Madsen to go the distance, and Olimbekov and Nate Manis to go the distance. So, all right, guys. Matt, what's your quick thoughts on World Series?
The World Series is still going on. Look,
I mean, you've already moved on.
Well, I mean, it's been tough. I mean, look, the Astros are the better team. They probably aren't cheating. Who knows? That they might be. I don't know. Jose Altuve might have a buzzer still. It hasn't helped him that much. But, I mean, the big question for Game 6 is which Wheeler shows up. You'll know in the first inning. If Wheeler's pumping 98, 99, then he's going to be fine, and it should be an interesting game. If he's throwing 94-mile-an-hour off-speed stuff, then it's going to be curtains for the Phillies. Rhys Hoskins has been terrible. Nick Castellanos has been terrible. And look, I think, the Astros have actually struck out a lot in this postseason. They've gone over quite a bit. I did not expect Syndergaard to have over 2.5 strikeouts, go easily over the 2.5. Framber Valdez has been really good against the Phillies both times he's faced them so far. I don't expect him to be any different. Then if there's a Game 7, Ranger Suarez has been very good for the Phillies. I expect Christian Javier to be in there at least a couple innings for the Astros, but I don't think this is going 7. Sadly, I think this is going to end tomorrow night. But it's been a fun series. It's been fun to have a team in the World Series, and it's been fun to make a little bit of profit so far on there, Andy. But, it's been miserable the last couple nights.
All right, good stuff. We got our best bet prop of the week coming for you here. Go grab everything from Matt Josephs at sportsmemo.com. We've got NFL props Matt's doing some NBA and, of course, college football. Nobody better in college football than Matt Josephs at sportsmemo.com. I'm Andy Lang from WagerTalk.com. We got a 5% NFL play that is up right now. We've got a 4% NBA best bet that is up right now. Let's get to the prop of the week. This is not the first time we've mentioned this guy on the show. I'm going back to Aaron Jones. Right now, the number is 64.5 rushing. It's a little bit juiced, so if you want to wait, this is one of the first times I've ever said this, but I might wait until this number goes up a yard and see if you can get less juice. I thought they found something last week against the Buffalo Bills with this running game. It looked patient. It looked very organized. It looked like they were fully committed, and that resulted in 20 attempts for Aaron Jones. 143 yards. The guy was averaging 7.2 yards a carry. He had a long rush of 32 yards. And this is just a really, really good matchup. The opponent for the Packers gives up 5 yards a carry. They've given up 1,084 yards rushing through 7 games. They've got tons of injuries in the wide receiving core for the Packers. So I would look for them to use the running game a lot. We saw A.J. Dillon get nicked up a little bit. He tweaked his knee. So this could be a huge Aaron Jones game against a bad opponent. The 64.5 seems way too low for me, especially if they really looked at the film on Buffalo and said, hey, this is what our offense needs to be. We kept it within 10 to the Super Bowl favorites right now. So give me Aaron Jones over 64.5 right now, but I would wait and see if it jumps up to 65.5 at maybe minus 105 or minus 110. So let's cash the prop of the week of Aaron Jones. 64.5 rushing yards. So thanks everybody for joining us. We got a really good weekend of props. We got NBA, we got NFL, college football. We got a good UFC event that is very bettable. You can find all of Matt Joseph's picks and plays on sportsmemo.com, all of mine on wagertalk.com. Let's have a great weekend. Let's make it a profitable one, and we will see everyone next week on Prop It Up.
The college basketball season is less than 1 week away, and the season starts with a bang. There are 126 games scheduled for Monday, November 7th, with Baylor and Mississippi Valley State tipping off at noon Eastern Time. We have 2 ways to help you get this season underway. Number 1, as we did for the start of the NHL season and as well as the beginning of the NBA season, all 7-day college basketball packages will be only $49 through Sunday, November 13th at midnight. Number 2, head to Ralph Michaels' homepage at WagerTalk.com and get the free 100-page college basketball preview. The shortcut to Ralph's page is wt.buzz/rm. This 100-page guide has returning starters, percentage of returning minutes, last season's overall stats, as well as conference-only statistics, plus against the spread and over-under data. It also includes coaching data, conference previews, and a forecast for each conference. Whether it's a 7-day college basketball package, checking the WagerTalk odds page for updated numbers, or downloading the free college basketball guide, enjoy this season. And March Madness will be here before we know it.